Fear he who fears nothing.
Do you ever go about your day as usual, following your familiar set of rituals and routines, almost like a passenger in your own body, content, not happy nor miserable, at least not consciously, only to suddenly, while catching a glimpse of your reflection in the mirror, get thrown into deep contemplation, self-psychoanalyzation, confronting how messed up you are and questioning everything you're doing and how you even got here? Just me? Well, at least Terrorblade is kind of similar. Terrorblade, the demon marauder, is basically a spirit animal of everyone who had an edgy emo phase in middle school. If you want to know every detail about demons as a kind and the 7th house, I have a video about it in the top right corner. Terrorblade is like Coldsteel the Hedgehog, but of the demon world in Dota 2. He is a mischievous, rebellious demon, so frightening even the inhabitants of hell fear him. He is an edgy anarchist who takes pleasure in messing with authority and anything sacred, which resulted in him stealing from the demon lords, ignoring the rituals and breaking every rule of the 7th house. After a bloody trial with many casualties on all sides, he was sentenced to be punished in the Hell of Hell, Falfell. Falfell is a prison where demons who don't oblige by the diabolic rules go. But it's no regular prison where you get a cell to spend a set amount of time in, or even get tortured by someone else. Instead, the punishment you receive depends only on how twisted the demon who goes there is. It's their inner self which determines the punishment, and thus, fair consequence follows your crimes. Falfell is a dark mirror of reality, where the inmates gaze eternally into their own reflection. But it's no normal mirror showing your outward appearance. It's instead reflecting the worst parts of your soul. For most demons, this is an agonizing and brutal punishment, trapping them in a horrifying limbo of terrible self-reflection. But Terrorblade instead mastered his inner demon because he never cared about hiding who he was anyways. He never had an ounce of pretentiousness and actively opposed those who tried to control him. He never virtue signaled to anyone and never claimed to be morally superior to others. He's a piece of shit, and he knew that. This grotesque, wild, thieving inner demon, instead of becoming his tormentor, became a new form for Terrorblade, which he used to break free from Falfell and was now set free to unleash even worse, even more terrible things upon the world. And now you might be thinking, okay, so he's the worst. He's literally the embodiment of chaotic evil. He's a static, one-dimensional, shallow character that just wants to watch the world burn. Right? Well, yeah, kinda, but actually no. There are many hints as to why he is actually not really a bad guy. The most obvious sign would be how he is a demon that opposes demons, since double negative makes positive, doesn't it? Demons and hell are inherently evil, so if he is rebelling against and opposing that, doesn't that kind of make him good? And yes, he is known to extort others and take pleasure in killing, but he also shows a kind of sweet concern for innocence and genuine goodness. Let's look at his relationships. Abaddon says this when meeting Terrorblade as an ally.
Come, friend. Let us fill their souls with terror.
Showing that heroes do in fact consider him a friend, even if it is Abaddon who's not necessarily a good guy. There's also a minor hint in Pudge's Arcana voice lines where he thinks TB's flesh tastes sweet. Curiously specific.
Tastes surprisingly sweet.
He is also concerned with and opposed to other heroes that unleash terrible things upon innocents, like Undying and Necrophos.
You are a lost soul, Necrophos. Your disease has run its course.
You can learn more about them in my Undead video in the top right corner. And despite him being an anti-demon demon, he is mad at Warlock for enslaving demons.
Warlock, you've enslaved your last demon. Warlock, now the mages can summon you from hell.
And of course, he is opposed to any authority and controlling or manipulative hero.
Your voice captivates no more, Siren. I ruled in the hell of Falfell. Why would you think I'd bow to you? You are no king of mine.
But one hero interaction in particular is very interesting, and that's with Timbersaw. When killing him, Terrorblade says this:
Timbersaw, I put an end to your madness.
And when meeting him as an ally, he says this:
Timbersaw, what the hell is wrong with you anyway? Hey, Timbersaw, look out, a tree. Timbersaw, please shut up about the trees. Seriously, you need help.
Now, you might just say he's making fun of him for being mentally ill, but I can't help but pick up on a sort of concern and worry hidden behind mischief. Another interesting relationship is with Skywrath Mage. When meeting him, Terrorblade mistakes him for an angel, which disquiets him, and then proceeds to note that Skywrath would make a fine demon, perhaps alluding to Lucifer the Doom being a fallen angel like Satan in IRL Christianity.
Are you an angel? Skywrath, your form disquiets me. Skywrath, what a fine demon you would make. An angel vows.
Something strange that I can't really make sense of is that TB really respects dragons. He says this to Dragonite, Jakiro, and Winter Wyvern.
I'm always glad to have a dragon by my side.
As you would maybe guess based on his not just being a demon but also hating sacred things and authority, he directly opposes any hero that blindly follows their god, like for example Chen and Omniknight.
Healer, your hypocrisy knew no bounds. Chen, I wearied of your sanctimony.
This is something he also talks a lot about in his other voice lines, not directed at any hero in particular.
The self-righteous shall choke on their sanctimony.
He hates anyone who claims to be morally superior to others, especially because those who preach that often aren't, especially in the religions inspired by our own Abrahamic religions like Christianity. And lastly, the biggest hint to Terrorblade actually not being such a bad guy is this voice line to Enchantress.
I'm every demon's worst nightmare, but I'm your best friend.
Scholars debate exactly what he means by this, but in my interpretation, he's basically saying what I mentioned before. He is only a major asshole to other demons, the most vile, evil creatures. But innocence, nature, selflessness, and kindness, which Ench embodies, he would never hurt. I ship it. Terrorblade's spells are very interesting because they bring what he learned while imprisoned. Reflection lets him cause the opponent to hit themselves like he was meant to suffer in Falfell.
Your own worst enemy.
Metamorphosis is actually the form he saw in his reflection, the darkest, most terrible part of his soul that he mastered.
Fear what you will never understand.
He hints here that maybe what separates him from others seeing their inner self is that he didn't mind his flaws. He knew he's no saint and doesn't pretend or lie to himself about being morally superior. But if someone like, for example, Omniknight, who has slain thousands of innocents in the name of his god, were to see his reflection, he would be terrified. Among all his interesting voice lines, this one in particular is very profound.
In war, gods favor the sharper blade.
He is basically saying that if there is a god, they do not care to or don't have the power to help you out. It's all in your own hands, cause whoever has the sharper blade wins. Did you know, in Dota 1, Terrorblade and Anti-Mage were brothers, and the Dota 2 devs were actually planning on continuing that relationship at first in Dota 2. There's many unused voice lines that prove this. He was also meant to take souls kinda similarly to Shadowfiend, but that too they abandoned at his release. In Underlords he is currently a demon and a hunter, but as with many other heroes in Underlords, his lore hasn't really been expanded upon. He is not an artifact. Now, before we end the video, we have one more thing to discuss. As Monkey King has pointed out,
why do you spend so much time in your lesser form, Terrorblade?
And he has a point. Most of the game, you're just running around farming with your illusions, only popping metamorphosis while pushing a tower or fighting. So Terrorblade only takes on his dark, twisted, more powerful form when he needs to, and actually seems to prefer his weaker, regular form otherwise. If he really accepts his inner demon, then how does that make sense? Well, maybe what's written between the lines alludes to how we, you and me, also have an inner demon that you only sometimes let out. When in flight or fight mode, when under a lot of stress, or when you're witnessing injustice, it's not uncommon to change behavior slightly. You get more blunt, more emotional, less empathetic, more selfish, and even you have special traits that only apply to your personal inner demon. And while it might from a survival standpoint make sense for that to leak out in those pressed situations, I think most of the time it's better not to metamorph. Terrorblade doesn't care that the dark parts of his soul is this horrible creature. It doesn't upset him at all. But that doesn't mean he prefers it to his more chill, regular form. Another explanation is that Terrorblade's weak form is actually his strong form. In the Falfell prison, he mastered his reflection. Maybe it's because his weaker form was already much worse than what he saw in the mirror. I don't know. But what I do know is, despite Terrorblade being this demonic, stereotypical evil thing, he is not much worse than the angelic, divine-looking Omni Knight. They both kill a lot of people. The difference is what kind of people and for what reason. If you put it this way, the virtuous one is actually Terrorblade. He is the best friend of the innocent and targets terrible things like other demons. And he doesn't claim he is doing it because he's better than them or he is somehow morally superior in a way. Omni Knight, on the other hand, as well as Chen and the Romescu faithful, do kill innocents, and they have even convinced themselves it's because their god is superior and knows best, and that the sacrifice is justified. So yeah, Terrorblade is not so bad, and neither are you. Be kind and forgiving to yourself. Be the person you want to be, not the one you think others want you to be. Keep it real, or Terrorblade will kill you for being a pretentious, malicious pushover. At least I think that's the moral of the story. I'm not completely sure, to be honest, but that's what I gather from it. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much to Slacks for the recent shoutouts. Since then, we have reached not just 4K, but 5K subscribers. I almost don't believe the numbers. Thank you so much for checking me out. We'll hopefully start uploading regularly again now, so I hope to see you around. Until then, peace.